Hello Army, welcome back to my channel. If you thought yesterday's FIFA World Cup final couldn't get any more packed with unforgettable moments, think again, because on top of everything else that happened, we now have one of the most genuinely wholesome, chaotic, and viral backstage moments of the entire day, and it involves one of the biggest streamers on the entire internet losing his mind over meeting Jimin and the rest of BTS. If you haven't seen this clip yet, get ready, because this might honestly be one of the funniest and most heartwarming things to come out of this entire World Cup final, and I need to break down every single detail of what happened, because there is so much to unpack here. So let's set the scene, because context really does matter here. Sunday, July 19th, the FIFA World Cup final between Argentina and Spain took place at what's officially being called New York New Jersey Stadium, known the rest of the year as MetLife Stadium. As we've already covered on this channel, this final made history for being the very first World Cup final to ever feature an official halftime show, and BTS, with Jimin among the 7 members, delivered a performance of their classic hit Dynamite as part of an absolutely stacked lineup that also included Madonna, Justin Bieber, and Shakira alongside Burna Boy. That performance alone would have been more than enough to dominate headlines for days. But then, after the cameras stopped rolling on the actual halftime show, something happened backstage that ended up becoming almost as big a story as the performance itself. Enter ishowspeed. If you're not familiar with him, and honestly, at this point it feels like most of the internet is familiar with him in some capacity, ishowspeed, whose real name is Darren Watkins Jr., is one of the biggest streamers and content creators in the entire world right now, with over 52 million followers just on Instagram alone, not even counting his numbers across YouTube, Twitch, and every other platform he's active on. He's built this massive, incredibly passionate following through his high-energy, often hilariously unpredictable content, and over the past year or so, he's become deeply, genuinely embedded in World Cup culture, to the point where FIFA actually brought his unofficial anthem, a song called World Cup Champions, into the tournament's official album after it exploded online, pulling in millions of views within its first day of release. He even performed that song live during the World Cup Finals closing ceremony, and he received the very first official FIFA World Cup 2026 fan ID, essentially making him one of the unofficial faces of this entire tournament from a content creator standpoint. So Speed was already deeply embedded in this World Cup final, watching from what's been described as his own private box, presumably enjoying the match and soaking in the atmosphere of this genuinely historic day. But then, according to what's been widely reported and shared across social media, his brother spotted something that changed the entire trajectory of his day. Somewhere backstage, not too far from where Speed was watching the match, BTS was present, having just wrapped up their halftime show performance. And the moment Speed found out that BTS, one of the biggest musical acts on the entire planet, was somewhere nearby, he did exactly what you'd expect someone with his personality and energy to do. He immediately bolted from his private box and went searching for them. Now, if you've ever watched any of Speed's content before, you already know that subtlety is not exactly his defining trait. This is someone who brings maximum, unfiltered enthusiasm to literally everything he does, whether that's reacting to a goal during a match, meeting a celebrity, or just existing in front of a camera in general. So you can imagine exactly the kind of energy he brought to this search for BTS backstage. Social media quickly filled with clips capturing this entire chaotic, joyful chase, showing him moving with real urgency and excitement, clearly determined not to let this opportunity slip away. And he found them. After searching through the backstage area, Speed eventually tracked down all 7 members of BTS, RM, Jin, Suga, J-Hope, Jimin, V, and Jungkook, gathered together backstage. And what followed is honestly one of the most purely joyful, unfiltered reaction moments I think we've seen from a major internet personality meeting a globally famous group like this. According to reports in the videos that have circulated since, Speed asked for a photo with the group, and then proceeded to hug each member individually, working his way through the entire lineup one by one. Let's really sit with that image for a second, because it's genuinely such a wholesome scene when you picture it. Here's someone with over 52 million followers, someone who has met countless athletes, celebrities, and public figures throughout his career as a content creator, and he's still just as starstruck and genuinely excited as any regular fan would be, going member by member, greeting each one of them with what's been described as pure, unfiltered enthusiasm. On Instagram, Speed shared a reel capturing his reaction to the whole encounter, and in it, you can see him literally jumping for joy the moment he laid eyes on the group. He immediately went in for hugs, telling them, in his own words, "Big fan, bro." Big fan, repeating it as if he genuinely couldn't contain how excited he was in that exact moment. And it wasn't just a quiet, reserved meet and greet either. True to his personality, Speed brought his own signature flair to the entire encounter. At one point, he performed one of his well-known trademark backflips right there in front of the entire group, turning what could have been a simple photo opportunity into this genuinely entertaining, high-energy spectacle. He's also been reported to have playfully barked alongside the group at one point, adding to just how spontaneous and joyfully chaotic this whole interaction turned out to be. It's exactly the kind of moment that captures why so many people find his content so entertaining in the first place, this complete lack of self-consciousness, this willingness to just fully commit to the moment regardless of who's watching or how it might look. One of the sweetest details to come out of this entire encounter involves BTS's leader, RM. According to reports, RM greeted Speed by his actual full name during their interaction, which honestly says a lot about just how aware BTS themselves are of who Speed is and what he's built as a creator. It's not just a case of a random famous person happening to bump into another random famous person backstage. This was clearly a moment where BTS recognized exactly who they were meeting, adding this really nice layer of mutual recognition to the entire encounter, rather than it just being a one-sided fan moment. After the round of hugs and the backflip and all the excited energy, the entire group came together for a photo, capturing this genuinely wholesome, joyful moment for good. In that photo, Jungkook can reportedly be seen flashing a wide-eyed thumbs up, adding this perfect little comedic touch to an already delightful scene. It's honestly the kind of photo that just radiates pure, unscripted joy, the kind of image that ends up getting shared and reshared across social media precisely because it feels so genuine and unplanned. Let's talk about Jimin specifically for a moment, since I know a lot of you are watching this video because you want to know exactly what happened with him during this whole encounter. Multiple reports covering this story have specifically named Jimin among the members that Speed hugged individually during this backstage meeting, alongside RM, Jin, Suga, J-Hope, V, and Jungkook. So based on everything that's been reported across multiple outlets covering this story, Jimin was very much included in this entire wholesome group hug session, just like the rest of his bandmates. Now, I know there's been some conversation online about certain specific clips that have circulated, with some fans wondering whether every single moment of every single hug was captured on camera from every possible angle. And that's honestly a really fair thing to wonder about, because when you're dealing with a spontaneous, chaotic, fast-moving backstage moment like this one, involving 8 different people all interacting in quick succession, it makes complete sense that different camera angles and different edited clips floating around online might capture slightly different portions of the overall encounter. Not every single second of an interaction like this gets filmed from every single angle, and different fan accounts sharing different clips online are naturally going to end up highlighting different specific moments from what was clearly a much longer, more fluid overall interaction. But based on the consistent reporting across multiple major entertainment outlets, the overall narrative remains the same. Speed hugged all 7 members, Jimin included, as part of this wonderfully spontaneous celebration backstage. Let's take a step back for a second and think about why this entire moment resonates so much with people, beyond just the surface-level entertainment value of watching a famous streamer get excited meeting a famous group. There's something genuinely charming about watching someone with Speed's level of fame and success still get this visibly, authentically excited about meeting artists he clearly admires. In an era where so much of celebrity interaction can feel curated, staged, or overly polished for the cameras, this entire encounter felt like the exact opposite of that. It felt spontaneous, unscripted, and completely genuine, which is exactly why it's resonated so strongly with people watching clips of it online. And on BTS's side of things, this moment also speaks to something meaningful about where this group currently stands within the broader landscape of global entertainment. This wasn't some scheduled, carefully arranged photo opportunity between 2 teams of publicists coordinating a mutually beneficial appearance together. This was a completely spontaneous encounter, triggered by Speed's brother happening to spot the group nearby, followed by Speed himself deciding, in the moment, to abandon his private box and go track them down. The fact that this kind of spontaneous, genuine excitement exists around meeting BTS, even from someone as famous and successful as Speed himself, really underscores just how significant this group's cultural footprint has become, extending well beyond just the K-pop fandom into the broader landscape of mainstream American internet culture. Let's also touch on the broader context of just how busy and eventful this entire World Cup final day turned out to be for BTS as a group, because this backstage moment with Speed was really just one part of an absolutely jam-packed day for the group. Beyond their historic halftime show performance, and beyond this viral encounter with Speed, reports have also indicated that BTS had additional viral backstage moments throughout the day, including an interaction with fellow performer Justin Bieber, with V reportedly having a particularly heartfelt exchange with the Canadian singer that also delighted fans watching clips of it online afterward. So really, this entire day turned into this incredible whirlwind of historic performance moments combined with genuinely charming, spontaneous celebrity interactions, all happening within the span of just a few hours around this single World Cup final. Let's also think about the timing of all of this within the broader story of BTS's ongoing comeback era. This entire year has already been filled with milestone after milestone for the group, from the record-breaking release of their Ararang album, to their massive, continent-spanning world tour, to now this genuinely historic World Cup final halftime show appearance. And within that already packed year of achievements, this backstage moment with Speed adds this wonderfully human, relatable layer to the whole story. It's easy to get caught up talking about chart records and streaming numbers and historic firsts, but moments like this backstage encounter remind us that underneath all of those achievements, these are still just 7 guys who clearly bring out genuine excitement and joy in the people they meet, famous streamers included. Let's also spend a little time talking about ishowspeed's own remarkable World Cup journey this year, because it really does add some helpful context for understanding just how significant this particular encounter was for him personally. Beyond his unofficial anthem making its way into FIFA's official World Cup album, and beyond receiving the first ever official fan ID for the tournament, Speed has also been captaining his own team in something called the YouTube FIFA Creator Cup throughout this World Cup, reportedly leading his squad to some genuinely competitive results throughout that entire creator-focused tournament. He's essentially spent this entire World Cup fully immersing himself in every aspect of the tournament's culture, from the official music, to fan engagement initiatives, to now, capping it all off with this incredibly memorable, spontaneous celebrity encounter backstage at the actual final itself. Given just how deeply invested Speed has been in this entire World Cup experience, it makes complete sense that this backstage moment with BTS ended up feeling like such a natural, fitting capstone to his whole tournament journey. Here's someone who spent months fully immersing himself in World Cup culture, and then, right at the very end, right at the final itself, he gets this genuinely unexpected, joyful bonus moment of meeting one of the biggest musical groups on the planet, completely by chance, simply because his brother happened to spot them nearby. Let's also talk about how quickly this kind of content spreads once it hits social media, because the speed, no pun intended, at which this backstage moment went viral really speaks to just how much overlapping audience interest exists between Speed's massive fanbase and BTS's equally massive global fandom. Within hours of the initial clips being shared, social media platforms were absolutely flooded with reactions, reposts, and commentary from both sides of the fandom spectrum, fans of Speed who were thrilled to see their favorite streamer getting to experience this kind of moment, an army who were delighted to see BTS being shown this kind of genuine, enthusiastic appreciation from such a massive figure within mainstream internet culture. It's honestly a perfect example of exactly the kind of crossover moment that tends to introduce entirely new audiences to an artist or group they might not have been previously familiar with. For every person who follows Speed but might not have been particularly familiar with BTS beforehand, watching this clip likely served as this fun, engaging introduction to the group, showing them, through Speed's own genuine reaction, exactly why BTS commands this level of excitement and admiration from people across so many different corners of the entertainment and internet landscape. Let's take a moment to appreciate the specific comedic beats of this entire encounter too, because I think that's honestly a huge part of why this clip resonated so strongly with people online. The backflip in particular has become one of the most talked about details of the whole interaction, this perfectly timed, completely spontaneous display of pure excitement that felt exactly like something Speed would do in this kind of situation. Combine that with the reported barking, and the pure joy captured in that jumping reaction from his Instagram reel, and you've got this wonderfully chaotic, entertaining sequence of moments that plays out almost like a highlight reel of genuine human excitement, completely unfiltered and unstaged. And then there's that small but genuinely touching detail about RM greeting Speed by his full name. It's such a small moment in the grand scheme of everything that happened that day, but it's exactly the kind of detail that tends to stick with people and get highlighted repeatedly across social media discussions of the encounter. It shows this mutual layer of recognition and respect between two massively successful figures from completely different corners of the entertainment industry, coming together in this brief, spontaneous backstage moment. Let's also think about what this entire encounter might mean for how both Speed's audience and BTS's audience perceive each other moving forward. Moments like this tend to build genuine goodwill between different fanbases, creating this sense of shared appreciation and mutual respect that can often lead to future collaborations, shoutouts, or continued positive engagement between these different corners of the internet. Given how positively this entire encounter has been received across social media, it wouldn't be surprising to see continued references to this moment, whether that's Speed mentioning BTS in future content, or BTS themselves acknowledging the encounter through their own social media channels or interviews down the line. Let's shift gears for a moment and talk about the broader significance of this entire World Cup final day for BTS as a whole, because when you step back and look at everything that happened, from the historic halftime show performance, to this viral backstage moment with Speed, to the additional reported interactions with Justin Bieber, this really was one of the single most eventful, milestone-filled days of the group's entire career. It's the kind of day that ends up getting referenced and discussed for years afterward, not just because of the historic nature of the halftime show performance itself, but because of all these additional layers of genuinely memorable, spontaneous moments that unfolded around it. And I think that's honestly part of what makes following this group, and this fandom, so consistently rewarding. It's not just about the big, headline-grabbing achievements, though there have certainly been plenty of those this year. It's about these smaller, more human moments that keep emerging alongside those bigger milestones, moments like this backstage encounter with Speed, that remind us just how genuinely well-liked and respected this group has become across so many different corners of global entertainment and internet culture. Let's also touch on something worth mentioning about how this entire situation reflects on Speed's own character as a public figure. Despite his massive success and his often intentionally over-the-top, chaotic on-camera persona, moments like this backstage encounter reveal this genuinely sincere, fan-like enthusiasm underneath all of that. He wasn't performing for the cameras in some calculated way during this encounter, at least not based on everything that's been reported and shared. This felt like a real, spontaneous burst of genuine excitement from someone who clearly has real admiration for this group and their music, and that authenticity is exactly why this clip has resonated so strongly with audiences across both fanbases. Let's also spend a moment thinking about how a moment like this fits into the broader picture of celebrity culture and fan interactions in this current era of social media. We're living through a time where these kinds of spontaneous, unscripted celebrity encounters can go viral within hours, reaching audiences of millions of people almost instantly. And moments like this backstage meeting between Speed and BTS represent exactly the kind of content that tends to perform incredibly well in this environment, precisely because of how genuine and unstaged it feels. There's no elaborate production value here, no carefully scripted dialogue, just pure, spontaneous human reaction captured on camera and shared with the world. Let's also acknowledge just how much this entire encounter adds to the already remarkable story of BTS's ongoing post-military service comeback era. This has been a year defined by historic milestone after historic milestone, and this backstage moment with Speed, while perhaps smaller in scale compared to something like the actual World Cup halftime performance itself, still represents this genuinely meaningful addition to the overall narrative of just how far this group's cultural reach and recognition has extended, even reaching one of the biggest names in modern internet streaming culture. Before we start wrapping things up here, let's do one final recap of everything that happened during this genuinely wholesome, viral backstage moment. Following BTS's historic halftime show performance at the 2026 FIFA World Cup final, streamer ishowspeed, upon learning that the group was nearby backstage, immediately left his private box and went searching for them. Upon finding all 7 members, RM, Jin, Suga, J-Hope, Jimin, and Jungkook, he asked for a photo and proceeded to hug each member individually, expressing his excitement by repeatedly telling them, "Big fan, bro. Big fan." He added his own signature energy to the encounter with one of his trademark backflips, and reportedly joined in some playful barking alongside the group as well. RM greeted him by his full name, and the entire group came together for a final photo, with Jungkook flashing a wide-eyed thumbs up to cap off the moment. This encounter quickly went viral across social media, adding yet another genuinely memorable layer to what was already one of the single biggest days of BTS's entire career. This entire moment, small as it might seem in comparison to the historic scale of the actual World Cup halftime performance, really does capture something special about where BTS currently stands within the broader landscape of global entertainment and internet culture. To see someone with Speed's level of fame and success still get this genuinely, visibly excited about meeting the group speaks volumes about the kind of universal respect and admiration BTS has managed to build over the course of their career, extending well beyond the boundaries of their core fandom into corners of mainstream internet culture that might not have seemed like natural crossover territory even just a few years ago. Thank you so much for watching this video all the way through. If you enjoyed this breakdown of this genuinely wholesome viral moment between ishowspeed and BTS, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update like this one in the future. Drop a comment down below letting me know what you thought about this encounter, and if you've seen the actual clips floating around online, let me know which specific moment was your favorite part of the whole thing. As always, thank you for being here, thank you for your continued support, and I'll see you in the next video.